Welcome to the 1905 podcast, home of the world champions, Chelsea. Each week, Joe and I bring you our unfiltered takes on the highs, the lows, and everything in between, following the Blues from Gate 13 of the Matthew Harding stand. Let's hit the notes. Okay, final whistle's just blown. Man United 2, Chelsea 1. I like to think that we pride ourselves in being pretty balanced on this podcast. We give an honest, I guess, fan review of how we feel about the game, and probably I kind of lean more towards the positive when I can, because it's just the way I am really as a fan. But I am really, really fuming about that, and I am going to try and keep this sort of short and sweet, I think, because the game is just finished, so you're getting a bit of an emotional reaction after the fact. But yeah, that was really, really bad from us. And what's the phrase that your mum says? I'm not angry, I'm disappointed. Probably a bit angry, but I'm just really disappointed. I just thought we were better now. I just thought this season, after the summer we had, at the end of last season we had, that we'd moved on from these sort of performances. But I'd argue that's maybe Maresca's worst performance, or our worst performance under Maresca, and probably his worst performance. I mean, you can put a couple others in there. The two games against Brighton last season were really bad, but yeah, I'm fuming with that. Okay, let's try and give some sort of sense of how I feel. Okay, well, first of all, I was so looking forward to the game. It's Man United. I actually love a late Saturday game. I think it's a really kind of a nice time to watch football. Played football myself this afternoon. We won the game on penalties. I scored my pen, and I'm buzzing. I like the game. I look at the team. The team came up pretty much as I finished my game, and I was like, oh, do you know what? I love that 11. Really, like, not far off what me and Joe had talked about in the last pod. Actually, arguably better, because I didn't think Reece would start. He was there. I'm looking at it thinking, yeah, that's a really good 11 for us. And I looked at United's, and I think this is why it stings even more. I looked at that United team and I thought, oh, that looks bang average. You know, and I was thinking, like, if we beat them here, which I looked at that, I thought we could, maybe should, then this might be Amorim's last game. And me looking forward to the game and kind of thinking this is a nice Saturday evening lasted 4 minutes. 4 minutes until just, I mean, we talked about schoolboy defending and mistakes against Bayern Munich. It was worse, wasn't it? Like, I'll let Joe analyse the goals defensively, because he's much better at that than me with his background at playing at a very good level at centre back. But what I'll say is, 4 minutes in, wet pitch, Rob Sanchez, just don't make the tackle. Just if he skips past you, the defenders can't get back, and he puts it into the empty net. 1-0 down, we go again. Or stay on your line and he's got to beat you. It's just terrible decision making, and yeah, it's a red card. I haven't really got over this yet in the last hour and a half, plus it's been, I just think Maresca's decisions were so negative. So negative. Of course, you've got to bring a keeper on. So when it was Estevao, you kind of knew it would be Estevao. And again, I'm gutted about that. So excited to see him play, as I've been saying a lot. But fair enough, it was going to be him on Neto. All right, you've got to do it. So that comes up, you're just a bit disappointed. When Neto's came up at the same point and Tosin comes on, I'm like, well, United have started, it's early days, they've started well. It's just inviting pressure. And sure enough, all that happened for the next 20 minutes of the game was that we just basically said, yeah, United, you come on to us. A really poor United side, low in confidence. You come on to us. And I'm not even going to talk about the goals. I'll let Joe do that if Joe wants to. But the only thing I'll say is, yeah, Jorgensen, the ball goes 30 yards in the air. Come and punch it. Just someone go and punch them or head the ball. And it was just dreadful. But just terrible defending. And I just looked at it and thought, rather than leave on, Pedro Neto and think you've got an out with pace in behind and you've got a threat still, it just felt like we were just, I don't know, just really, really negative. Again, I sort of said it on our little WhatsApp group. I was like, if you're playing Man City or a Liverpool, you could kind of understand it, thinking, was it a bit damage limitations? Fair enough. But you're playing Man United, a really poor United, low on confidence. Make the one change, see how it goes for 15, 20 minutes, and then make a call on it. I just felt it was so negative. And to be honest, we never recovered from that. We never recovered from that 20-minute, 25-minute spell where we went 2-0 down. It was kind of like game over. I mean, I would argue we're quite lucky to have sort of been given a bit of a lifeline with Casemiro's red card. I mean, it's silly from him. It's a bit stupid, really. It's given the referee a decision to make and it's gone our way. I'd say that it was harsh, but it kind of just gave us a little bit of a lifeline. But to us, we didn't really use it. We got a good goal from Trev, and that was it. I'm looking at the second half thinking, right, half time, what are we going to do? Is it Garnacho? Is it Mark Gui? Is it both of them at some point? Does he wait till 60 minutes and go, right, these two come on? You kind of knew Fofana wouldn't play the 90, fair enough. So you're thinking, right, we're going to have a proper go. Garnacho is going to give you something at Old Trafford. I said before the game I'd have started him, just thinking he's going to, but you're thinking that sort of game, he's going to give us a bit of a live wire when the game's going nowhere. And the subs come up. He does make a double change, but it isn't Mark Gui. It's not Garnacho. It's Tyreek George, who should be playing at Fulham now, if that deal hadn't broken down. And I'm not having a go at Tyreek. He's a good player, but he's not getting you out of a 2-0 defeat at Old Trafford. It felt like a really big, and it was Gusto. I mean, Cucurella might have been injured, might have been tired, whatever, so maybe that's a little bit different. But bringing on Tyreek George over Garnacho or Gittins or Mark Gui, sorry, but any three of them just felt insane. Like, he's clearly not planned to be at the club. I just couldn't understand that. And I thought that Maresca, almost to a point, got every decision in my mind wrong today. And we have just lost yet again to United, or yet again not won at United. And I think that is as bad a United team as we have played in that period. It was, honestly, it was embarrassing. And then what kind of disappointed me most of all, I think, is you get back in the game with Trev Chalobah. There's 10 minutes to go, pretty much with the injury time. 7 minutes added on. We didn't lay a glove on them. We didn't even get a shot on goal. And you could see it, like the crowd are nervous. It's like everything you're kind of thinking, they're sort of thinking, oh God, not again. And it could have been like, if he doesn't win this now, Emery's in big trouble. But we didn't even have a go. And I just, honestly, as you can tell, I'm just so disappointed, And I think I'll end it now because I know this sort of things can be a tough listen, to be fair. And it's, it's part of the podcast that, when we do these kind of live immediate reaction ones, sometimes they are probably a bit more emotional, good and bad, really. If we win, it's when we won against Fulham at the end of last season with Tyreek George and with Neto, it was brilliant. I was so happy, and you get a really emotional reaction that way. This one is just pure disappointment, but I'm sort of looking at our season. It's early days, but I'm thinking, okay, I just thought we were, I predicted we finished third. I thought we were there. I thought we were really a bit more grown up now as a team, and I'm looking at saying, no, we're not that far on from where we were last year. And I'll finish with the thing, and we don't want to keep talking about this. We don't want to do it. But at the end of last season, us on the podcast and most Chelsea fans were saying, what do we want in the window? We want a goalkeeper and a centre-back. That's all we were asking for. Anything else was a bonus. We knew Esteval was coming in. We knew that Andre Santos was coming back. And all we wanted was a top goalkeeper and a centre-back. And you look at a game like today and you think, yes, that is why we wanted those two things. I'll leave it there.
I've got to be honest, mate. The idea that we're only a few games into the Premier League season, played one European game, I don't want to come on here as like really overreactionary, because I think that's kind of what lots of other podcasts try and do. But I have to say that's probably one of the most disappointing games of football I have watched in a very, very, very long time. And to say I'm upset and angry is beyond belief, because I thought this Chelsea team were a bit smarter, a bit cuter. For the manager was a little bit cleverer. I thought that we had something going here, and in the first 5 games of the season, I'm really failing to see any of it, quite frankly. We had a purple patch against West Ham, as we've previously mentioned, but really, other than that, it's been dross, let's be honest with you. The Brentford game was very poor. The Crystal Palace game was very poor. And so on and so on. And at the moment, we look a little bit lost. I thought the manager's decisions were absolutely horrendous yesterday. I was so upset when Esteval went off, because, fair enough, someone has to go. That's fine, no problem. And then I saw Tosin come on. And I'm thinking, well, what the bloody hell are you doing? You know this, man. Do your research. Man United, at the moment, are not a very good side. Props for them for the win. I can't take it away from them. We pretty much gift wrapped it for them. But they got the victory. But they are a poor team. And anyone who knows and watched them at the moment will tell you the same thing. This isn't a Chelsea take. This isn't a Chris and Joe take. This is purely what everybody is saying about them. And when you watch them, you can't disagree. And you knew they were going to come at us. The rain was absolutely flying down. And then you see the board come up and you're thinking, surely he's going to bring Andre Sanchez on. Let the game play out. Let the game go. Why the rash decision to bring on Tosin at that stage was absolutely beyond me. And then, in my mind, I'm thinking, we'll stick with Reece. We've got Fofana, Chalobah, Cucurella, and then we'll just hack that midfield out. Enzo, Caicedo and Santos, and leave Pedro Neto and João Pedro to do a lot of the work. We basically chopped off both our arms yesterday, or both our legs, whichever way around you want to look at it. We basically just took everything off and just left the head on with João Pedro up front, which was just absolutely just horrific decision. And I've really felt for him, because all Chelsea needed to do was put the ball in behind them. You saw it later on in the game, and actually even before half-time. We didn't play well. But there were occasions where Reece was getting the ball, when Cucurella was getting the ball, and they had no outlet. You wanted Reece to get that ball there and be pinging a ball 45 yards over the fullback's head. But we had no outlet ball. So if we went to João Pedro, what was he supposed to do? Hold off 4 players. There was no pace in behind. And I thought, if we can just compact the midfield, the back 4 hasn't changed. That's all fine. The goalkeeper's gone off. We have to replace the goalkeeper. But for goodness sake, do not bring on another defender, take off another striker. And then to make it worse, obviously Cole Palmer then gets dragged. Now, I'm not sure yet if Cole Palmer's been dragged because he is carrying an injury. And did they think to themselves, it's pissing rain, we're 1-0 down, and he's on, not quite on one leg, but he's basically playing on 1.5 legs. Do we want him running around like a nutter for 90 minutes carrying an injury? So I'm not sure if he was injured or if they've taken him off for precautionary measures. But no Palmer, no Pedro Neto, and no Esteval. All gone in the space of 10 minutes. And the goalkeeper, obviously. And you're going, this is suicide. It was football suicide. And I'm so pissed at how we handled that. And it just smacked or such a rookie thing to do. Was he trying to be too clever? I just don't know. But I tell you what it did smack of, a little bit of what Pep used to do. The big game, tries to play that formation or put those players in. You go, what's he doing? And ends up getting found out. That's what Maresca did yesterday. There was no reason to bring on another centre-half. And what did it do? It just created confusion because we don't play with a back three. And you saw from them balls that were getting pumped into the box. I mean, I'll come to that second goal in a minute because that's going to really wind me up. But the idea that we thought we could just somehow win that game with João Pedro up front with a back four of your Man United is absolutely criminal. And obviously, if Casemiro doesn't get sent off, not that they're a very good team, but you could have easily gone and got done 4 there. And you're thinking, wow, this is as bad as it gets, quite frankly, because you're showing no growth here. You're showing absolutely no growth. People that have defended you, and I'm talking to you, Maresca, people that have defended you and said, I actually think you've got a little bit about you here. You're playing into everybody's hands. People like Jamie Carragher and those types of people that keep saying that you winning the transfer market or do you want to win the league title type of a thing. You're just playing into their fucking hands. And I'm sorry, you let yourself down yesterday big time. That was a massive, massive error. And you could all say all make mistakes, but you kept compounding it. Mistake, mistake, mistake. And I'm sorry, if you were going to do anything, personally, Enzo should have been the one to have been dragged. Because that was not the game for him. It was not the game for him. In a weird way, I'd have liked to have seen Enzo come off and left Estevao and Pedro Neto on. That's what I would have done. And put Sanchez on in the midfield. Something else had to be done to do what he did after 4 fucking minutes and bring on all them defenders, and then at the end of the game brings Gusto on. You're thinking, you've got Garnacho sitting there. You're losing. If you lose 3-1 or 2-1, what does it matter? Absolutely disgusting. I'm sorry. That was as bad as it gets. And yeah, the more I was thinking about it, I've been working this morning very early and kind of just been thinking all the way around, what am I going to say about this game? Because I'm just so hats off with what I've seen yesterday. And then we have to go and play Lincoln in the Cup on Tuesday night. And my brain's just like, I don't care. I couldn't care less. We've messed up the Brentford game. We've messed up the Bayern Munich game. And now we've messed up the Man United game. So in the space of a week, you've gone from, actually, we're in quite a good position in the league. The Champions League, okay, it's only 1 game, but, let's go there and put a bit of a statement performance in. And then we then go to Man United, a team that we haven't beaten in 10 years at Old Trafford, as we've already said. And we put in a performance like that. Just beggars belief that, we are still capable of putting in these types of performances. I just thought when we beat Liverpool last year, albeit with a slightly weakened team. We picked up the 3 points against Man United later on, didn't play very well, but we won that game. We had to go to Forest on the last day of the season and win to kind of qualify for Europe. I thought, this team might be growing a bit. And then you get to the Club World Cup and they had some great performances there, obviously beating PSG in the final, which was an incredible game, an incredible result. You thought, they're really growing up, this team. And what happens? They go and start the season a bit like this. And even though you could argue that it's only 1 defeat in the league and there'll be people saying, well, come on, doesn't really matter. They haven't played well yet. They've drawn 2 games. We've had a fairly, on paper, I know football's not played on paper, but a fairly easy one at the start of this season. And now you're looking at other games going, have we got the bottle to go and beat Liverpool? Have we got the bottle to go and beat Arsenal? At this stage of the season, I'm saying absolutely no way. Not with this back four and this goalkeeper. Not a chance.
Morning after the night before. And yeah, I wouldn't say I feel any better, to be fair, today. Just watched the highlights back, just to put myself through the misery one more time. And yeah, the Sanchez decision-making is actually worse when you watch it back, isn't it? It's kind of even worse than I remembered at the time. Just let him score. Just let him get past you, see if the players can come back. Slippy pitch, 1-0 down. after 5 minutes with 10 men is a much better situation than we left ourselves in. Just crazy. Obviously, we'll talk more about Maresca and his decision making. I think he panicked. Probably showed a little bit of his inexperience, if we're being honest. Got to remember, I mean, it's only his third full season, isn't it? Really, as a manager in England, at least. And yeah, I think he showed a bit of his sort of naivety there, and he panicked. I think he panicked with the changes, making that double change. So much we could continue to talk about. I thought a funny one is that after about when the second half started, and it was like 55, 60 minutes in, and obviously the rain was still pelting down, and the pitch was getting really sticky. I did actually go online and look at what the Premier League rules were about if the game would get abandoned. Does it carry on at 2-0? Do you start the game from scratch? And I was like, oh, you start the game from scratch. It would have to be replayed from 0-0, 11v11. So suddenly I was like praying for rain, and it bloody stopped. So yeah, that was gutting. That became my biggest hope, basically, in the second half, that the rain would get us out of it. Because the game at Blackburn, if you didn't know that, it had been abandoned earlier in the day, and Old Trafford famously doesn't drain very well. So I thought that could be our best chance out of this, but it wasn't to be. Press conference with Maresca, I thought was a bit meh, really, a bit boring in terms of his reaction. The one comment he made that got my goat was the explanation for Garnacho not coming on, because Garnacho, by all accounts, was being ready to come on, and Fofana said he was knackered, so he had to come on instead, and I think that was why they decided to bring Gusto on. That's what Maresca said. You're losing the game. Like, what's the difference if we get done 4-1 versus 2-1? Like, just have a go. Just go, right, lads, we're going to have to play with a back three then for the last 10 minutes. Like, let's just go for it. Throw caution to the wind. Garnacho, without a doubt, would have made something happen. He's just that sort of player. I'm not saying he would have saved the game for us, of course not, who knows, but he would have made something happen. He would have made the Old Trafford crowd nervous, and again given us another chance of getting something from the game. And if we'd come out with a 2-2 draw from that game, having had the disaster start with that we did, again, you'd feel so different, wouldn't you? You'd be like, wow, okay, we've shown a bit of character. But what was disappointing, I did say it yesterday, was just the fact that even when we did go back to 2-1, we didn't have another go. You've got that horrible wet pitch, nightmare for goalkeepers. Get some shots away. Get some shots up from range. Hit one from 25, 30 yards. But I don't know, it just didn't look like we had it in us to do that. You don't see enough of it in modern football anyway, I always think, like long shooting. It's kind of become XG'd out of the game, isn't it? Because it's low percentage efforts, doesn't fit the tactics. Much better to recycle the ball, go back round, try and make opportunities and stuff. Like, growing up, one of my favourite players was Roberto Di Matteo, and he was kind of famous for it, really. He scored some absolute worldies for us. No better example than being the FA Cup final in '97. But it's that sort of thing. Obviously, then Lampard is my all-time favourite player for exactly that reason. And on a pitch like that, I'd be like, yes, get some shots in. Let's test the keeper. We know he's by no means a top class keeper. They've already bought a replacement for him. I just felt that was really disappointing, again, in terms of just our attitude to the game, really. And yeah, overall, really disappointing. I'm going to hand over to a listener, Declan, who sent us a voice note this morning, and hand over on his part that he talked about those subs as well at the end, and obviously the use of Tyreek over Garnacho, which again would have been the other decision to make. He didn't have to. It wasn't just about Gusto. It was the use of Tyreek. So over to you, Declan, and then we'll hand over to Joe.
I think if you wanted any metaphor for want of a better phrase, of where we are. It's that we're 2-0 down at United in a wildly open game in the second half, and we've had all the ball and made all the chances. And he looks at the bench and you've got a shithouse Garnacho who would have been licking his lips at the chance to inflict some damage on Amarin and come on at a ground he knows well and actually run at players. And fundamentally, he is the better player between him and Tyrant George. And instead we bring on Tyrant George, the academy boy, who, much as I like him, I was there at Fulham, when he scored the goal. I always have that in my heart. He's not good enough. And we'll try to sell him to Fulham on the final day. And I think if you ever wanted a metaphor for where we are now, it's that. It's nearly there, but not quite at the top table. So, disappointing, cathartic, chastening, whatever words you want to use, but onwards and upwards.
Hey, it's Chris here with a really quick message. Check us out on Instagram at 1905podcast. You'll find video clips, photos, and much more about everything we discuss on the show. Plus, it's a great way to get in touch to tell us your thoughts, share your feedback, or just say hi. Follow us on Instagram at 1905podcast. And now, back to the show.
The most common misconception in football sometimes is if you bring more defenders on, you're going to somehow make that back line more secure. No goals are going to go past you. You'll keep nice and robust. But in a scenario like yesterday, when it was raining like nails down at Old Trafford for about 15 minutes, you couldn't see your hand in front of your face. All it did was create panic. And you saw, with the goals that we conceded, what happened? Nobody took responsibility. You saw it from the second goal, for example, where that lofted ball goes up in the air. You're thinking, Jorgensen, come and claim that. Easy pickings. Let's move on. Nope, he didn't fancy it. Ball goes up in the air again. I forget who was under it now, but there was a few Chelsea players looking at it going, well, you do it, you do it, you do it. And then Luke Shaw comes running in from absolutely nowhere and heads the ball. And obviously it goes to Casemiro, who just nods it in unmarked to the back post. What you basically do when you play in a back four and you've got two centre-backs is you know your role and you know your zone. You plug more centre-backs in there, it's almost like, oh, is that your ball? Is that my ball? Oh, I'm not too sure. Oh, you better go for it. Oh, I won't go for it. And what happens is no one goes for it. And I've played in defences like this before where you kind of go, you're better off keeping to what you know, keeping to your tried and tested, because Maresca doesn't play with a back three. I know he kind of inverts with players and stuff like that, but generally speaking, it's a flat back four kind of thing out of possession. And I just thought that in itself was criminal. And the way we gave those two goals away through kind of, again, no one going towards the ball, no pressure on the ball, no one really wants to go for a challenge, free ball, looping ball in the air, no one wants to go and head it away. It just was disgusting. And you're looking around, and what makes me laugh with Chelsea sometimes, this really gets my king goat badly, is they all look around at each other. But they do it after the goal's gone in. You see Trev having a look at Sanchez when he got sent off, going like, oh, what's he doing? You see Enzo having a moan at, I think it was Fofana, when the second goal goes in, when Luke Shaw nods it over to Casemiro. He starts moaning after the event, opposed to going at the start of the corner or set piece. Who's marking who? At the start of the game, they'll know their players, but obviously there's been a bit of confusion with the red card, so right, okay, what's going to happen? But if only the goalkeeper that's gone off, those things don't change. You might have to drop João Pedro back maybe to do some defending, or you might have to drop Enzo back to be like a screen in front of somebody or something. But generally, the set-piece marking should all be okay. If, the centre-half goes off, sent off or something, or gets injured, yeah, you might have to rejig some stuff. But it didn't yesterday. We made it hard for ourselves for absolutely no reason at all. And what really annoyed me was when Maresca said in his press conference after the game, was that, the players are used to playing, 5 against 5, defence versus attack, etc. And I'm going, but the 4 players that you've got going forward are Santos, Caicedo, Enzo, and João Pedro. You know, take Reece out of it and stuff for the minute. That's the attack you're going with. Where's the flair? Where's the creativity? I'm not saying that Enzo couldn't, you know, somehow do a little Cruyff turn and put a cross in for somebody, but there's no one in the pissing box. So you have to have a Pedro Neto, an Esteval, a Palmer, you need somebody to create something. You've got poor João Pedro running around like an absolute headless chicken. By the way, I actually think he come out of the game with a lot of credit. He went down a few times a little bit easy for me. He does get a few tackles and a few whacks. Obviously, he's looking for free kicks a lot of the time, and sometimes he gets them, sometimes he doesn't. But I just felt for the guy. I was like, you've given him... Apparently, he's on his arse in terms of fatigue. He's played a lot of football recently, travelling with the national team, etc. He's the one that's come back and hasn't had a rest. And honestly, with the lapsed injury, you're asking him to run around the entire game, basically at Old Trafford, on his own, and say and try and make him do something. I just thought his logic there. We've got 4 against 5 and all that. We've got 4 attackers and that's okay. The attackers were fucking holding midfield players in the main. That logic to me was a nonsense. He's come out with no credit with that comment for me. You have to have an outlet ball. And even if you decide to say, right, I'm going to leave Pedro Neto on, right? You let that guy run for 60 minutes. And if he's absolutely run his heart out for 60 minutes, you bring on Garnacho or Gittins. A time. This is where players have to show up and turn up. Now, Garnacho's not at fault because obviously he wasn't brought on. He can't bring himself on. But these players have been bought for millions of pounds. They're not kids. They need to come on and show what they're worth. And Gittins has not had the greatest start to the season. But what an opportunity to kind of go, do you know what? It's a bit of a free hit, this. We're not expected to win now. We've got 10 men. We've been playing for 10 men for most of the first half. The goalkeeper's been sent off with 2-0 down. Neto's running his heart out, for example, which he didn't because he was taken off. But I can come on now and show my worth. You know, what if I create something or score a goal or beat a player? There was none of it. We were just doing it with central midfield players. And that's where he was totally wrong. And he can talk all he likes about that, but that is bullshit. This Chelsea team had an opportunity at the start of the season to gain some really good points, gain some really good traction, push themselves away, because teams like Newcastle and Villa and stuff, they haven't started well. Tottenham drew again yesterday. But all you're doing with performances like that yesterday are telling me that we are going to be basically competing for the top 5 again, and it's all going to be a scrap, and it's going to be a bit nasty, and they've got to get their act together real fast here, because you get to the point where you're going to come under pressure if you start playing Liverpool, Arsenal again, and you don't pick up those results again. You know, you have to beat everybody else before you can start beating, you know, Liverpool on a regular basis or Arsenal on a regular basis, who, by the way, are playing very, very well. That's the thing. These games are going to be really difficult to win. And, you know, you're coming up short all the time against teams that you should be beating comfortably. It's just not good enough, Maresca, at the moment. I'm sorry. You need to really sort this out big time, because I know you were hard done by in terms of not getting a centre-half. I think you probably wanted one, you know, but it's so plain and visible. We've said it for 1,000 times. This team needs at least one centre-back, and for goodness sake, we need a goalkeeper. And I know Sanchez, for all the reasons we've said before, he's doing a job in goal for us and all that sort of stuff. This is what he does. He plays well against Bayern Munich on Wednesday night, and the very next week he has an absolute brain fart, and he does exactly what he does by coming out knee-high tackle on Waymo. And you just think, just logically, even if he misses that tackle and he slots the ball in at 1-0, you've still got 11 players. Your game plan's still, you know, or you're 1-0 down, but you can still kind of get back into the game and work your way back in. Coming out and siding someone down on the edge of the box by his knees, nowhere near the ball, is just suicide. I'm sorry, it's not good enough. Really disappointed week, and, you know, losing games of football happens. It's going to happen all year long, here and there. and we won't react this way the entire time. But that yesterday was unwatchable football from start to finish. It was mistake after mistake after mistake in every position, in every way, from manager to players. It was a nightmare. Wanted the game to end as soon as it started. Really look forward to the game. Like Chris said in his voice note at the start, was really looking forward to this. I thought we'll go there. This is the time we're going to nail these 2 or 3-0, maybe even more if we get going. But yet again, we've come up short.
Right, where do we go from here? Let's try and finish the pod with some thoughts in that respect. Lincoln on Tuesday night is clearly an important game now. And I know, Joe, I get what you're saying about not caring, but at least after a horrible day like yesterday, we do have the chance to, I think, get confidence back in the group and get a good win. It's Lincoln are third, actually, in League One, started the season really well. So they'll be up for it. They'll be confident, but obviously Chelsea should be going there and winning comfortably, as we know. Sanchez, we believe, will only serve a 1-match ban. I was joking yesterday that we might appeal for it to be longer, but it will be 1 match. And to be fair, the way that Jorgensen certainly did for that second goal, we might be glad to have Big Bob back. Oh, I never thought I'd say that, but yeah, he'll be suspended for the Lincoln game and then be back for the game against Brighton. What do we expect against Lincoln? It will be a lot of changes, won't it? We know that Mark Gui can't play because he's cup tied, but surely he won't play João Pedro, because if there's one player who really looks like he needs a rest, it is João Pedro. Do you think he'll come out? It'll probably be Tariq George up front, won't it, unfortunately? That feels that's the only other option, unless they bring in Maresca from the under-18s, also for the under-23s. Other things you'd expect to see, I mean, again, actually, I will look forward to the game on the basis that actually people at Esteval you'd think will play, you think Garnacho will probably start, and I think to see those guys from the start will be really interesting. The one I'm really interested in talking about, and I know it's a frustration point for Joe this, because he loves him as a player but is incredibly frustrated by his injury record, but is Romeo Lavia. So Lavia has been training now for a few weeks, is fit, I believe, or as fit as he ever is, still yet to complete 90 minutes for Chelsea Football Club. But I look at the way that we've played in the last 2 games, and those 2 tough away games, tough places to go at least, and think that's where, when we were looking really good, sort of first half of last season, and we often saw in those big games that we'd play with the 3 of them, wouldn't we, with Lavia, Enzo and Caicedo. And I look at him and think, where the defence looks vulnerable this season, the idea of having Lavia and Caicedo in together would, I think, give us a lot more protection. And he might be, if we can get him fit, he might be the key to improving that this season, is kind of my thought at the moment. Outside of that, it'll be 9 or 10 changes, won't it? It'll be, you think Achimpong will finally get another game, which would be good for him. I wonder if Badiashile's fit and might come in. So yeah, lots of interesting players. I don't actually mind the early rounds of the League Cup. I always find them, for that reason, they can be quite interesting to see where we're at with these sort of development players. Hato, of course, he'll be another one who comes in. So plenty of players to get a proper look at. And then Brighton on Saturday, which we'll talk more about after the Lincoln game. We'll be back to react to the game in midweek and then look ahead to Brighton. But I think it's clear that it's really important that we get back on track quickly, because this is Chelsea Football Club. We know what the media circus is like around it. We know what can happen if you don't put a stop to these bad runs fairly quickly. And I think it's important for Maresca that Chelsea do. So yes, we'll be back, and I'm, as you'll have noticed, made a decision a couple of weeks ago that we should put the results in the title of the podcast. And since then, we've not won. So part of me is blaming myself really for this run of form. Just thought it would be easier for the listener to know which episode they're listening, it's exactly about. If we don't beat Lincoln, I can promise you now, I'm gonna stop doing that. So let's hope that when you get to listen to the Lincoln pod, it has the score at the start of it, because it means that we've won the game. Every little thing is going to be all right. I've got to believe that. Those were the Chelsea notes for this week. If you enjoyed the podcast, do us a favour and share it with a fellow Blue. And we'd love to hear your thoughts, so leave us a review wherever you're listening. Wherever you may be, stay carefree, and remember, every little thing's gonna be all right.